released. There was no classified information in there, and there were no names that were released that would harm the FBI or DOJ interests. These were high-level officials who ordinarily would have been subject to public disclosure in discussions of public documents like this. Why was the department? Why were they trying to railroad President Trump into keeping this document secret?
Because they were protecting themselves.
And then it comes out and they're trying to say it's no big deal.
Right. All of this should make you nervous. The dishonesty mixed with self-righteousness. Looking back, you wonder how many people at the FBI ever even believed, just for a moment even, that Carter Page was actually a Russian agent. They clearly don't believe that now. If they did, Page would be in handcuffs. Yet he's still a free man, though his civil liberties have been violated and his reputation has been destroyed. Democrats could not care less. They're still pretending that somehow Carter Page hurt this country. They know that's a lie, but Page himself or what happens to him in the future is all irrelevant to them. If he can be used to destroy a president they hate, they are happy to use him, even if he is crushed in the process.
Well, that's what's most disturbing about this. Regardless of the content of the memo, you have this disconnect between what the FBI said, what Democratic members said about the release of this memo. Those of us who've been working in national security cases a long time expected there to be some type of footprint of sources and methods. There wasn't. This thing wasn't even remotely classified. And that really concerns a lot of us because it's the use of classification laws for tactical purposes. That if you look at what the FBI said, they said, we want this thing to remain classified because it's inaccurate due to omissions. Well, that's complaining about how the facts are being portrayed, not that they are classified. And many critics have said for years that the FBI and other agencies have been classifying material to avoid embarrassment. And this may be the most public and relatively rare example of that. There's nothing remotely in this memo that justifies the rhetoric used by Minority Leader Pelosi, Ranking Member Schiff. They all said that there would be dire consequences. And the FBI director and the FBI said that there would be grave, problems that would arise with the release.
FBI Director Chris Wray and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein met with John Kelly on Monday, warning him the memo could jeopardize classified information.
And then you look at the memo and it's sort of an empty grave.
So the Freedom of Information Act, as I understand it, says unless government has a compelling reason to keep something secret, it has to release everything unless it can show it shouldn't, because it belongs to the public. But it seems in Washington the instinct is the opposite. Everything is classified unless there's political pressure to declassify.
I think that's right. I think one thing that we should be able to agree on is take a look at this memo. Anyone looking at this memo can see that it was written to avoid sources and methods. It's basically what we had already heard, with the difference is that there was discussions of testimony and other details, but there's no disclosures of new sources. It was confirming that the dossier was a critical part, if not the determinative part, in securing that FISA order.
Of course, most media outlets have spent far more time and effort covering the FBI memo's release and the actual allegations contained in the memo itself. It's almost like the allegations, which are that the U.S. government illegitimately spied on its own citizens, barely matter to them. Do you think that Carter Page has betrayed his country by working for a hostile foreign nation? That's the claim the Obama Justice Department made to a FISA court 4 times.
I don't know.
And I want to know, is it true or not?
I don't know if it's true or not, but when we see the underlying
kind of a heavy
source
charge to make
document,
against a man, don't you think?
when we see the source documents, we're going to find out what Carter Page was doing with the Russians and how that connected to the Trump
Well, why is he
campaign.
not in jail? Why does Carter Page stride a free man when he has betrayed his country? These are very heavy charges you guys are throwing around against someone who has not been indicted or convicted and against whom there is no publicly available evidence. And I don't understand why you continue to do that.
Why Carter Page is walking the street is a question that should keep a lot of Republicans up at night. Let's just leave it at that.
It's hard to believe you would say something like that on live television. Do you have evidence that he is working against America?
No, I have absolutely no evidence.
I remember decades of the left squealing about J. Edgar Hoover and his unjustified wiretaps, and now suddenly we're told that unjustified wiretapping is a nothing burger.
When a guy has been under surveillance by the FBI since 2013, and there were 4 FISA
Martin
renewals.
Luther King was under surveillance for more than a decade by the FBI. Does that mean he's guilty? 10 years from now, Donald Trump will be gone, and Democrats will have forgotten that they once pretended to fear Russia as a threat to our democracy or whatever. But our law enforcement and intelligence agencies will remain as long as this country stays intact. and we have got to trust them. We give them incredible powers, awesome powers, including the power to take human life, the most basic of all. We allow them, by the way, to operate in secrecy because they tell us they must. In exchange for all of that, we ask them to operate with integrity, to prove to us that they haven't become tools of a political regime, because always and everywhere, that is the temptation. And unfortunately, it looks like it just happened here.
The press, the people who are supposed to speak truth to power and about power, are trying to cover it up and suppress it and spin it to make it less important. It's actually appalling, and it just brings that old Latin tag, you know, who will guard the guardians? If we've lost a press that really cares about the truth.
The FBI and the DOJ basically conspired with the Democratic Party, the DNC, and the Hillary Clinton campaign to exonerate her of violations of the Espionage Act, and in the course of trying to prevent Donald Trump from becoming president, to frame him for a non-existent crime of collusion.
I really do think it is a holdover from the Obama administration, an administration that turned the federal government essentially into a Chicago-style machine full of cronies and corruption and outward malfeasance. I mean, malfeasance we could see, like the IRS scandal, while the press stood by, afraid, I think, to lay a finger on a president who they looked at as, you know, the first black president, certainly, and as the spokesman for their point of view, their ideological point of view, and they didn't want to touch him. And when you have no press, the government is going to get out of control, and the Obama administration did.